Hi everybody, Ken here. A few months ago I made a series of videos that were devotional in nature. It just seemed like this pandemic had slowed us down and given us the opportunity to learn to listen to God better. In so many ways it just seemed like He was trying to get our attention. And if we could learn to be present to Him and to listen, we might hear some things that we needed. And as we went through that, we certainly learned a lot about who God is and who Jesus is, but also how in so many ways we have so much to learn, not just about listening to God, but also about listening to one another, that we're not very good at it. We have a lot of room for growth. And then this summer came, and added to the pandemic was the killing of George Floyd and other people by the police that raised this whole issue back to the national stage of race relations in our country. And people took to the streets on both sides of that issue, some in favor of Black Lives Matter and some in favor of the police and understanding their situation better. And it's just gotten so chaotic and the messages are so confusing. If we're not learning to listen better, we're going to be in real trouble, because the next step, this coming fall, we're entering this political season that's only going to make everything harder. And if we don't learn to love one another well through this season, if we don't find a way to really seek peace, to seek justice together, to learn to live together as neighbors and as friends and family, then we're just going to be further divided the farther that we go into this political season. And I'm really concerned for us, and particularly as a Christian, if we as Christians are not setting an example for others in how to listen well and how to love not just those who love us, but love those who disagree with us, then how are we ever going to find a way forward as a country? Because I believe God gives us everything necessary to do that. And as a Christian, the life of Christ is within me, and His Spirit is within me to empower me to love people in the way that God loves them. So what I want to do is go through the Bible and look at a series of passages that really teach us how we are to see one another as fellow human beings and how we are to love one another regardless of whether people agree with us or not, whether they're our neighbor a house away or a neighbor across the city or a neighbor across the country. There are ways that we need to learn to love one another better, and I think the Bible is just filled with principles that we can use, but also the power of the life of God within us is available if we will seek God. He is to be found, and He can give us the strength to do this. So I want to encourage you to explore this together with me. The first passage I want to bring up comes from Matthew chapter 5, that directly addresses exactly what we need to hear right now. Because in that passage, Jesus challenges His listeners by saying, "You've heard it said, love your neighbor, but you can hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemy and pray for those that persecute you. Then you'll be like your Father who is in heaven, because He causes His sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and He sends rain on the righteous and on the unrighteous. If you only love those who love you, you're no different than anybody else. And if you only welcome those who welcome you and greet those who greet you," Jesus says, "you're really no better than even the sinners in the culture around you." So what I want to encourage us with is to learn to love in the way that God loves. God loves the evil and the good in the exact same way. He has given of Himself to us in Jesus Christ in a way that demonstrates His love for us, that even while we're sinners, Christ would die for us. That's the kind of love that God has. And we can each learn to love that way as we let God's love impact our lives and change us from the inside out. So that's what I want to invite you to do, is as we go through these passages, go into these passages ahead of time with me, see if the things that I'm bringing out of them are actually there, but then also invite God into this conversation and ask Him, how would you have me change that I may learn to love others better and learn how to love you better? And He's totally willing to do that. So the next passage we're going to look at is Genesis chapter 1, we're going to pull out of there some principles that are foundational for learning how to treat one another as fellow human beings and to love one another. So Genesis 1 next time. We'll look forward to doing this together, learning together, and God bless us as we do that.